Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation today. I want to thank you for joining us on this webinar for the important changes that the Department of Education has made to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program that will greatly improve access to PSLF specifically for part-timers. Sorry, I'm not nervous at all. Please forgive me, everyone. Specifically for part-timers across the United States. I do want to ask that you hold your questions, but that the chat box, we won't be using the chat box, but we will be using the Q&A feature. So you can choose to use that. And we're not going to be able to answer any personal questions today about your particular situation, but the folks at AFT are loading with resources and will be able to help you show ways that you can receive that individual help. So my name is Jerry O'Brien Losi. I am AFT Local 2190, which is United University Professions. And I have been utilizing the AFT program since about 2017 with our members. We represent 37,000 members across New York State in higher ed. And what's important to know is that over the last 3 years, the student loan landscape has changed so much. It's been so dramatic. And thanks to the effort of AFT members like you and our allies, this has dramatically changed the opportunities we have to be able to receive loan forgiveness. I myself received $74,554 of forgiveness. UUP members have received $9.3 million to date. You will see me cry when we hit 10 million. And of that 9.3 million, almost 2 million has been from our contingent academics and part-time employees and part-time members. It's important to remember that AFT successfully sued Navient, leading to improvements in the student loan servicing and holding the worst servicers accountable. We're all a little damaged from this process. We also successfully sued the Department of Education for mismanagement, specifically of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And the settlement led directly to the PSL waiver and the income-driven repayment account adjustment that were retroactively given to borrowers working in public service who had been previously ineligible and never informed about the necessary steps to reach forgiveness. I was lucky enough, I was honored to represent AFT on the negotiated rulemaking committee that the Department of Ed created to discuss some of these loan servicing issues. We talked about what Chris is going to talk about today with the calculation for our part-time and contingent members. We talked about all of the bad actors and the things that they had done to the people who just wanted to get their college education. I'm a first gen, I would have cut off my left leg, not my right leg, but my left leg just to be able to go to college. And so AFT has been instrumental in moving not only the needle on the procedures and policies of PSLF, but on the kind of emotional damage some of us have experienced in our own journeys. Because as we know, relationship with your student debt can be very different. Our biggest impact has been informing our members about the programs. We have continued to use the communications with our members to continue to find gaps in the program, to continue to move people toward that forgiveness. We know that contingent faculty do full-time work, even if they're treated as part-time employees. We know that most higher education employers refuse to acknowledge what real hours people put in to their dedication to their students. And even though it doesn't cost the employers anything, they still stand in the way of receiving forgiveness. We've been able to take these stories and work with state legislators in California, Oregon, Washington, New York, and Colorado. I'm real proud of the New York work. Happy to talk about it. To create state standards for how part-time faculty contact hours are counted for the purposes of PSLF eligibility. And on July 1, the Department of Education is going to adopt a nationwide standard of multiplying contact hours to 3.35 to determine eligible hours for PSLF for contingent faculty at public and nonprofit higher education institutions. So what this means is that contingent faculty members working 3-credit courses for any term moving forward and all the way back to when PSLF started October 1 of 2007 can get certified as full-time by the employer for the purposes of public service loan forgiveness. The new rules also preserve the ability of states like Oregon and Colorado to legislate and for local unions to collectively bargain even better standards for their contingent faculty. So Oregon and Colorado currently have a 4.35 hour multiplier in effect. I'm not nervous at all. So what we've done at UUP, and we're at the State University of New York, is I run clinics twice a month. Every one of our paydays, I run a virtual clinic. And we recently in New York passed the 3.35 contact multiplier for our members. And we have seen the impact. So again, almost 2 million of our contingent faculty have been able to apply for and receive forgiveness. So it is working. It is making a difference in the lives of others, letting people retire, letting people have, be able to make more of their lives because they don't have that debt hanging over their head. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a step back from my emotions and I am going to introduce Chris Goff. He's the Associate Director of AFT's Higher Education Department and the coordinator for AFT's Student Debt Clinic program. And so he's going to talk more about, in more depth, about the new rule and the changes and how contingent faculty can take advantage of them. Chris, take it away.
Thanks so much, Jerry, and thank you all for taking the time to be here today. Many of you know me, I'm Chris Goff in the Higher Education Department. Before we start, I am going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you, but I do want to drop into the chat here a document for you to download and to take with you. It is going to contain a lot of different resources, which you can use to apply for public service loan forgiveness, and take other steps to manage your student loan debt. There are websites in there that will walk you through the procedures. There are links to member benefits in there. There's also information about income-driven repayment and public service loan forgiveness in there, as well as information about how to use AFT's member benefit program. So please take a moment to download that and keep it with you. And a lot of the stuff we'll be talking about that in here. And like I said, I'll be making reference to other some of these resources in there as well. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you all. I should start it from the beginning. So we're here today to talk about public service loan forgiveness and contingent faculty. So it should be no surprise to anyone that this program has not worked well for contingent faculty in the past, that most federal programs do not work well for contingent faculty because contingent faculty are basically not seen by the federal government. Their work experiences, what goes on is just not, that experience is not included in a lot of public policy. So the changes that we've made here today reflect a lot of consciousness raising, not only among our members, but taking those experiences, talking to people at the Department of Education, talking to people in Congress, talking to state legislators, and making that experience visible and saying, hey, we need to design public policy that works for all higher education employees, not just for a ideal that we have or that we think that we're basing public policy on. So this is going to cover public service loan forgiveness, which allows people who work for a public service employer, so anyone who works for a public higher education institution or for a nonprofit higher education institution, allows them access to have the balance of their student loans forgiven if they meet certain eligibility criteria. So I'm going to briefly review that. To meet this criteria, you're going to need to make 120 on-time monthly payments. That's 10 years worth of payment. You're going to have to make those 120 payments while enrolled in a qualifying repayment plan. So those would be any of the income-driven repayment plans that are currently available. There are 4 of them. The Department of Education is going to introduce a new one next year in 2024, or it includes a 10-year standard repayment plan. You must also have direct loans while making those 120 payments, and you need to be working full-time in a public service job. Now, all of those criteria have been problematic for the entire existence of the public service loan forgiveness program. And it's not until recently that we have been able to address the huge gaps in this program and actually make this program start working for people. And the changes that I'm talking today about are going into place, and they're going to be helping. They're the newest changes to expand access to this program, specifically designed at to help contingent faculty. So let's talk about this, these new rules for counting hours for PSLF. So this is going to address the issue of full time for contingent faculty. Now, dating back to when the Affordable Care Act, this is going to be familiar to all of you. Employers were able to start limiting hours to contingent faculty to keep them below the 30-hour threshold that would require them to pay you health care benefits. And so this has had really, it's limited abilities to work at one institution. It's limited your ability to get health care. And because of that, and because of the way that they count hours, usually it's only counting your credit or paying you for your credit hours, it's at limited ability to access public service loan forgiveness. So we actually owe a huge debt of gratitude to our colleagues in the California Federation of Teachers for getting the ball rolling on this standard. They were the first to pass a 3.35 contact hour multiplier for higher education, or for part-time higher education faculty working in the community college system. So people in California, in community colleges at least, have had this standard going back a few years now. And now everyone who's working in higher education and public or nonprofit higher education in California is going to have access to this credit hour multiplier. Following that, our colleagues in California, in Oregon, in Washington, in Colorado, and New York, all passed state level multipliers. Oregon and Colorado actually passed 4.35 contact hour multipliers. So they actually have a more generous standard than the national standard. But starting on Saturday, higher education institutions must start certifying your work hours by multiplying the contact hours that you work by 3.35. So every contact hour in the classroom is multiplied by 3.35, added together to determine what your hours are for the purposes of public service loan forgiveness. Now, I want to reiterate here, this is the first time there has been any sort of national standard for counting hours worked, contact hours, to actually trying to determine what the actual hours are worked. We realize that this is not fully accurate, that you often work more hours than 3.35 for every hour in the classroom. Preparation, grading, service hours, all of these go into that work. And so we're still short, but this is the first time that the federal government has recognized that what institutions are paying you for and what you're actually working are different. And so this is a step forward, and it's a step that we hope that we can build upon to win continued improvements for adjunct faculty. So this contact hour multiplier is going to be in place to count your hours moving forward when payments resume. So starting in the fall term, you're going to be able to certify using this contract hour multiplier. It's also retroactive all the way back to when the PSLF program began on October 1st, 2007. So you're going to be able to go back and certify past hours. This is going to be really important because there's another thing going on with public service forgiveness right now that is also going to be able to impact your eligibility that has some important deadlines. So I'm going to come back to that retroactive piece here in a few minutes. And as Jerry mentioned before, the new rules allow for states or for locals who bargain contracts to bargain more generous multipliers. So Colorado and Oregon are going to be able to keep that 4.35 contact hour multiplier in place. And if you choose to do that in your state or through a collective bargaining agreement, it preserves your ability to do so. So I want to do really quick is walk you through a quick example of how a contact hour multiplier might work for you as an individual. So let's say that you are working at 2 different higher education institutions teaching 2 3-credit hour classes at each institution. So using this credit hour multiplier, what we do for your first college, we would first take 3 credit hours and multiply that by 3.35. That means for a 3 credit hour class, you would get given credit for 10.05 hours worked. And because you're working 2 courses, 2 3-credit courses at that institution, you would be able to be certified for 20.1 hours. That would still make you part-time, but the hour total for that would be 20.1 hours. With the same situation at College B that you're working at that term, you would be certified for the same number of hours. Because public service loan forgiveness allows you to combine part-time work at the same time to meet that full-time threshold. If you were to file, get paperwork for a public service loan forgiveness from each college for that term, file it together, you would be given for credit for 40.2 hours per week for that academic term. You would need to file those forms in together so that they know that they were adding 2 part-time jobs for that, but that puts you over the 30-hour threshold necessary to get credit for public service loan forgiveness. So for folks who are cobbling together 1 or 2 classes at multiple institutions, this would be the way to take advantage of that contact hour multiplier. Now, there's some of you who are able to pick up 3 3-credit classes at one institution. In that particular instance, you would, again, multiply 3 credit hours times 3.35. That means for 1 3-credit course, you'd be certified for 10.05 hours. If you work 3 of those courses, they would be able to certify you for 30.15 hours. This would allow your employer to check the box for full-time for that term for that. So 3 3-credit courses would qualify you for full-time for the term under the new rules. From now on, the new rules say 30 hours or more is full-time work, regardless of what the employer might define it as for the purposes of PSLF. So if you have 3 3-credit courses at an institution, you can be certified as full-term. Further, if you work 2 semesters of 3 3-credit hour courses, so you would be full-time for 2 semesters based on this, the employer can check the full box for the entire year because the rules state that if you are meeting full-time for 8 hours a year, or for at least 8 months of the year, pardon me, the employer can check the full-time box for that entire year. So you have a lot of flexibility, be able to take or work for 2 semesters. If you have summers off, they can still certify full-time for the entire year. So this is going to be a game changer for contingent faculty. So 3.35. Now, I know that not every HR department is as up to what is going on with federal regulations as possible. So I am dropping into chat a link to the actual regulations that the Department of Education has. Now, this is a few hundred pages of regulation. So if you want to find the 3.35 multiplier, I recommend just doing a Control F search on the document and put in 3.35 And that'll bring up the relevant rules, and you can share those both with your union, so they're ready to enforce this with the multiplier, and with your HR departments, so that they know that this is coming and that they should just not give you any guff and let you get the debt relief to which you are entitled. Okay. So another thing that is going on right now is what is called the income-driven account adjustment. So what we talked about earlier, the qualifying payment plans being income-driven repayment. One of the cool things about income-driven repayment plans for a lot of borrowers who may not be eligible for public service loan forgiveness is that there is a provision in there that says, if you have been paying on your student loans for 20 to 25 years under one of the plans, that you're entitled to loan cancellation after 20 or 25 years, depending on what your plan you have. However, so they estimate there's 4 million people who have been eligible, who have made over 20 years of payments under, who have been in payment for 20 years period, but only 100 some odd people have actually received loan cancellation under an income-driven repayment plan, which is shocking. And it's just as shocking as the number of people who had been able to apply for PSLF, and only a handful of them 4 years ago when they started opening us. So because of this, the reason for this, one of the big reasons is that, and it might shock you to learn this, given everything you know about student loan servicers, is that servicers have never made a point of actually counting people's student loan payments. So because of that, what the Department of Education has been doing for the year of 2023 is actually reviewing all federal student loan accounts to determine the number of payments that people have made. And so they're going to take that total, and that total is going to apply to that 20 to 25 years of cancellation under an IDR plan, or to the 10 years under PSLF. So even if you didn't go through the PSLF waiver in the last year, they are still going to be counting qualifying payments under the account waiver. Now, this account waiver lasts through December 31st of 2023. So we essentially have a 6-month sprint here to make sure that everybody who didn't previously qualify for PSLF is able to have previous payments. And these can be payments made on any type of loan and in any type of repayment plan, or even periods of forbearance or deferment are counted, and that these are applied to PSLF. So it's possible, if you've been in repayment going back at least 10 years or more, that you might be able to qualify for PSLF by the end of the year. Now, it is very important, while this account adjustment functionally continues the PSLF waiver through the end of this year, whenever you apply for public service loan forgiveness, whether it's in the next 6 months or afterwards, you need to still be working in public service when you apply for and receive loan forgiveness. So for contingent faculty, it is very important that you apply for the final forgiveness during an academic term when you are working full time. And we discovered this through a part-time faculty member applying during the summer when they weren't working, and the college didn't enroll them as working during that term. And so they had to wait a few more terms until they were working full-time again to receive that forgiveness. So very important that you do not leave public service employment until you actually receive that forgiveness. Now, the things that you're going to need to do to take advantage of this IDR account adjustment and make sure that you get all of your previous payments counted before December 31st. Most importantly, it is going to be the most advantageous to you to consolidate your loans before December 31st, 2023. In 2024, the rules change. So if you currently have Fell loans or Perkins loans, you must consolidate those loans before December 31st, 2023. If you consolidate them before that date, you are going to be able to, the new loan that you have is going to have the payment count of the oldest loan, and I'll kind of walk you through that. So if you do consolidate before December 31st, your new consolidated payment will have the number of payments of your oldest loan. If you do it after December 31st and you have FFEL or Perkins loans and you combine them with any other type of loan, your payment count will reset to 0. Now, if you only have direct loans, but you have direct loans on, say, different timelines, say because you are on one set of loans for your undergraduate education, one set of loans for your graduate education, you have 100 payments on the undergraduate loans and 50 payments on the graduate school loans. If you consolidate those loans before December 31st, your new consolidated loan will have 100 payments on it because the new loan will have the payment count of the oldest loan in your portfolio. If you consolidate them after December 31st, they're going to use a weighted average. So you will not be able to bring everything up to the oldest loan. They'll use a weighted average. But as I mentioned before, if you have FFEL loans and you consolidate them after December 31st, payment count resets to 0. So if you need to consolidate or it's advantageous to consolidate before December 31st. The Department of Education's website to consolidate your loan is on that slide in front of you. It is also on the front page of your resource guide. So it's also important to note that loan repayments are going to start starting in September. I know a lot of us are paying attention to the Supreme Court, and we're expecting a Supreme Court decision tomorrow about the Biden loan cancellation. That Supreme Court decision is not going to impact any of the stuff that we're talking about today. It only deals with that $10,000 to $20,000 in loan forgiveness. But it does start the clock on loan repayments starting. So payments are going to resume starting in 2023. If you are not already or you weren't already enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan before the pandemic started, you should enroll as soon as possible so that when payment resumes, you are getting the lowest monthly payment available to you. And that makes sure that your future payments are eligible for PSLF moving forward. We also recommend that you fill out the PSLF application to certify your past employment. You can do that at the PSLF help tool at studentaid.gov/PSLF. You're able to submit that whole loan or that whole paperwork online. And now your employers can also fill out that application digitally as well. If you do use the help tool, let the employer know to be on the lookout for an email from DocuSign on behalf of the Department of Education. They'll be able to submit your hours worked and sign the application there. We do recommend that you submit the application every year. So if you are not certifying for 120 payments in the next 6 months, you're going to continue to need to do this every year so that you keep your payment count up to date. And you can see the progress that you're making. There's some other resources. A lot of these are going to be on the front page of your resource guide, so don't think that you need to write them down. So there's a really great resource that has explanations of the different programs and instructions for debt cancellation, for income-driven repayment, and for public service loan forgiveness. CancelMyStudentDebt.org. That's run by our partners at the Student Borrower Defense Center. We also have a benefit that's available for AFT members. It is absolutely free. It's called Summer. It is an online student loan management program where you can do the applications for all these programs. It creates a checklist for you for a lot of people who kind of need a little help walking through the applications and having someone kind of hold their hand through it. Summer is a great resource. In the last page of the resource guide, there's actually some instructions for creating a free member benefits account. And then once you create that member benefits account, you log in, and Summer is one of the first benefits you see. You can go there and start the process. We also run AFT Student Debt Clinics, a student debt clinic webinar every couple of weeks. You can enroll in one at go.aft.org/debt clinic webinar. In those, we go really in depth about income-driven repayment and public service loan forgiveness, walk you through the process of enrolling, have lots of time for your questions. And then lastly, this is also on the front page of your resource guide, debtclinic@aft.org. If you have questions, concerns, if you have kind of an individual issue about your own student loans that we kind of need to dig into more, use that email address and we will get you some individual attention, can get you some further resources and answer any questions that you might have about this. Now, before I turn it over to Jessica here, I do want to ask you to help us out. So we have 6 months now to get the word out to contingent faculty about this amazing opportunity to get all of their previous public service loan forgiveness eligibility counted. But we have until the end of the year to do this. So we have a student debt clinic program that allows local leaders to run student debt clinics in their local and to kind of learn to use that to build their unions. So if you are interested in doing that, I'm going to ask you to indicate your interest with an email before July 14th, 2023. So mail that to debtclinic@aft.org. And please let your local president know that you're doing this. We want to do this in partnership with your union and not surprise them with them. So please CC them on the request. Otherwise, I will be checking with them myself just to let them know. Ideally, we do want to train at least 2 people per local. So if you have a friend who'd be interested in joining us, bring them along. Running a debt clinic can be a lot. So having 2 people and building a team out of that can be really important. We're going to start these trainings in the last 2 weeks of July, and we're going to limit the trainings to 30 participants per training. So getting some interest beforehand will allow us to schedule different trainings to allow as many people as possible to attend. The training themselves will be conducted online, and they're going to be 2 3-hour sessions. Again, we'll hold them on different days, different hours to allow as many people to attend as possible. And they're going to teach you how to use the student debt clinic curriculum, get you familiar with the things you're training on, and they'll talk through how to use these debt clinics as a member engagement tool in your local. And with that, I actually want to turn us over now to Dr. Jessica St. Paul, who is a faculty leader and a part-time leader at AFT Local 1521 in Los Angeles, and is one of our fantastic student debt clinic leaders who's really taken up the debt clinic program and run with it for contingent faculty. So I want to give her a chance for you to describe the program. Jessica, take it from here.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris. And yes, I'm excited. Now we're thinking about ourselves, like, what do we do? And thank you for Chris for just sharing the overview, and Jerry as well. We really want to talk about what does this mean for your union. So we wanted to share what we did at our Los Angeles College Faculty Guild, local AFT 1521, and how we brought it back to our local so we can assist our members. All right, so I'm going to go here. So just a little bit about our road to PSLF with AFT 1521. It started with member education. I'll talk a little bit about that. And we are forever grateful for Chris and AFT's team to train our student debt clinic trainers. We'll talk about the debt because we had to state the case. What are we doing this for? What are we doing for our members? How we can help our members? And they talked about the California Federation of Teachers. So excited for CFT getting us that multiplier that assisted us. What does that look like with the district? That's our employers, right, to sign our forms, and then our outcomes. So you can see how you can actually manage the program within your local and how you can help your members out. So the first thing was member education. We need to go through our members, talk to them about what it was about the PSLF program. So we had initial presentation to our executive board, as we all do. We want to make sure we can fund the program. We knew we had to run clinics. We had the information out since October 21st of 2021. So we knew we had to get this information out. So we started the train the trainer session. And then we wanted to talk about the student loan balance. So we had to capture a moment in time of how much money are the student loan debt from our members. And then of course, Jerry talked about the 2 amazing historic settlements that occurred with Navient and Weingarten v. DeVos. Actually was one of the litigants for the Navient Corporation along with AFT. And so forever grateful for myself getting $144,462 of student debt erased from me for public service loan forgiveness. Took about 4 years, but now we're at this time. And then I want to talk about our amazing student debt clinic trainers that we now have at AFT 1521. So the first thing, we had our training. It's been a member benefit, and we wanted to make sure it's very important that we create this program to increase member engagement and to increase membership. And so it was been a member benefit since March 8, 2022. We started with 8 student debt clinic trainers. So thank you, Chris, for training us online for 2 days. It was like a Friday and Saturday. We did like a Saturday, Sunday training. We did that online. We want to explain the federal programs of student loan for our student loan borrowers. We did public service. We talked about our unique multiplier because at that time we knew California community colleges only at that time within California would actually be able to be eligible for the contact multiplier, now be available for all starting Saturday. And they want to definitely review the PSL limited waiver at that time, because at that time it was October 31st deadline. Now we have this December 31st, 2023 deadline for the IDR one-time account adjustment. And then summer, which is one of the student loan assistance programs that is free at no cost to our AFT members. So these are amazing trainers. I want to make sure I put them out there, little plug. So we had amazing trainers. We had a form that we had available, a Google form doc that we gave out as a link, a bit.ly link for our members to sign up so they can get our training. We offered about 6 trainings a month. It was intense. We wanted to make sure we reached the limited waiver. And then now we have about 6 members, 6 of our members who are now AFT 1521 student debt clinic trainers who are now providing student debt clinic trainings. And also we added one-on-one PSLF support because oftentimes members are afraid to share that information during a student debt clinic. And so they really want to get some individualized support. So now we sit with our members, go through their applications and see what we can do to assist them to reach public service loan forgiveness. And so we captured a moment in time, right? We wanted to see how much money at the moment. We had about a month, we sent out the information to our members, and we know it's about $14.9 million student loan debt. And that was only 258 registrants. And we knew that we had more members because we had about 1,500 who signed up. And so you knew at that time that we need to do more for our members. What is it that we can do? How do we incorporate this program as part of a member's benefit and keeping it alongside with local AFT 1521 to ensure all of our members will be able to have access? So our goal is to reach full forgiveness, or if anything, increase in your payment counts so you can get to the 120 payment counts that are needed in order for you to have that during that eligibility period for PSLF. So of course, our California Adjunct Multiplier, which we're really excited that now will be national starting Saturday. So 3.35, again, I'm going to state the California Federation of Teachers, CFT, forever grateful. We fought alongside of our members. Advocacy, organizing is the way. We've always explained that to our members, that is what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure we increase awareness of this program. We did find some challenges. Oftentimes, sometimes employers may not understand the 3.35 multiplier. So we had some work to do. We also want to note, as you notice, there are 2 that actually have higher multiplier accounts. But for us, we do have a 3.35 multiplier. So if you're in negotiations and you're able to, you can do that, you can actually supersede that. So if you have it higher than that, you can do that within your negotiation. So what we did, we continued with the 3.35 multiplier. And now that it's a national, we can definitely help our members who are working in other districts, private colleges, the higher education. So like our CSUs, our California State Universities, UCs, they can now get the 3.35 multiplier starting Saturday, July 1st. And so we're excited about that now because some of our members didn't even reach the 9 units in order to be eligible. So again, you have to say to yourself, so what happens with the district? How do you know no one wants to certify for full time? And as Chris mentioned, the challenge was because of the other benefits that come along for those who are eligible when they're full time. So we had to do a call of action just to be sure the full-time box is checked. And I'm saying go back to your locals, make sure you discuss this. It's really important. You can have a 30.15, but if that full-time box is not checked, that application may be rejected. And so we had to call on AFT, text and email Chris so many times, but called AFT to get that information. We collaborate with CFT and the Student Borrower Protection Center, which you'll see on the first page of your resource guide, to get that information, to get it across. Like, we need to ensure the full-time box is checked. Thank you for the 3.35 multiplier, but you must check the 3.35, the full-time box in order to be eligible. We were successful. We want to make sure we reach that timeline. And now moving since October 2022, our district actually worked amazingly. So we're so grateful for our HR department at LACCD, went back to go through 314 applications due to our activism. We have mobilized our members they were able to reaffirm, the chancellor was able to reaffirm the 3.35 contact multiplier, and 314 faculty applications were resubmitted to U.S. Department of Education, and now they were eligible for public service loan forgiveness. So the power of your union is amazing. It's really important that we look into what we can do to continue to assist our members. And as I close, we want to talk about the outcomes, right? So our goals were to ensure that we increase membership, increase membership engagement, and we found there was a 53% increase of new members when we started the program. The second part was increasing member engagement, to understand that we did 83 clinics and over 1,700 individuals of our members have actually registered for student debt clinics, and we got almost 1,000 members within our clinics. And as of June 21st, we have $3.2 million of student debt forgiven through PSLF. And so just understanding, again, organizing and mobilizing is the way. This would have never happened without AFT. We're forever grateful for AFT. And we said to ourselves, if we didn't have a student debt clinic training program, this would have never happened. Members have receiving so many different information, about the Biden 10K, 20K program, which is totally different than PSLF, and our members are not applying. And so lastly, we say, what's next? We are really excited. We really hope that you take the information shared by Chris. I know we'll talk about it again at the end, to ensure that contingent faculty know that are in higher education, and you are now eligible. This expands access to PSLF, giving that member education through your local, and definitely the AFT Train the Trainer. It was very, very helpful for our members. Members say to us all the time during our one-on-one support, I would have never known that I was eligible if you didn't sit with me. I would have never known I could apply if you didn't sit with me. I didn't know that the full-time box need to be checked if you didn't sit with me. So our members are forever grateful, and we're forever grateful for AFT for providing this no-cost AFT Train the Trainer session. So now we're going to increase our student debt clinic program, ensure that we have more one-on-one PSLF support. And so we're extremely excited and happy to get to this point now with PSLF. So I'm going to stop share because I do see questions in the Q&A box, and take it back over to you, Chris.
Thanks. I did answer a bunch of questions in text in the boxes. But I do kind of want to really quickly, just so everyone knows, if you didn't take a moment to look at them, I'll just review the ones that I didn't answer. So again, the credit hour multiplier is retroactive all the way back to October 1st, 2007. When public service loan forgiveness began, and it's going to be in place moving forward. So if you have been working since October 1st, 2007, and can put together a full-time work, you might be at loan forgiveness right now, which is very exciting. But if you're not at those 120 payments yet, this is going to be there moving forward. So you're going to be able to certify moving forward. You did hear that periods of forbearance are counting during the IDR account adjustment. Now, there is a good reason for that. We mentioned student loan servicing has historically been super crummy. And so because of that, there was actually a practice known as forbearance steering, where student loan borrowers, where student loan servicers, because it was advantageous to them, would steer people into a forbearance or deferment, even if that wasn't what was best for borrowers. And because of this practice, a lot of people ended up owing a lot more money when there were other options that were available to them that could have had them forgiven or things like that. So to make right by this, they are allowing for periods of forbearance or deferment that exceeded 12 months consecutive or 3 years, 36 months total. Those periods will be counted as on-time payments towards public service loan forgiveness, and any type of deferment that occurred before 2013, except for in-school deferments, will be counted towards public service loan forgiveness. So for a lot of people who just kept re-upping a forbearance because they thought that was their only option, this is going to make payments count towards public service loan forgiveness if you were working full-time in there, which is very excited. So a couple of people asked questions saying, and this is very common for part-time faculty, going back, you're going to be working three credit hour classes, some terms, and only 2 some terms. Unfortunately, only the terms where you're working above that full-time threshold, so that's going to be 3 credit hours, are going to be able to be counted as qualifying months of payment. And the months where you were working 2 credit hours, you unfortunately won't be able to count those. However, I do want to point out that you do not need to make consecutive monthly payments to get to PSLF. So if you work for 3 months and then you have 2 months off, you don't get your count reset to 0. Back when you're working full time, you'll be able to make doing payments again. So it's not going to be 10 years kind of in a linear sense for you to get the PSLF. It'll be 120 payments. It'll be together piecemeal, but you can still make credit towards that 120 total when you're working full time. So again, to reiterate, that December 31st, 2023 deadline, if you consolidate your loans, if you consolidate any loans before that deadline, your new consolidated loan will have the payment count of the oldest loan in your portfolio. And so whatever types of loans they have, if you consolidate before December 31st, and you have loans that say, if you have one loan that has 120 payments and one loan with 60 payments, that new loan will have 120 payments. Now, if you have FFEL loans must be consolidated before this deadline to be able to take advantage of this waiver. If you do it after December 31st and you have FFEL loans, you reset your payment account, you reset the payment count to 0. If you have direct loans that you consolidate, and it's only direct loans, if you consolidate any direct loans after December 31st, they're going to do a weighted average of those payments to determine what your new payment account is. See, we had some new. So our understanding of the 3.35 hour multiplier is that it applies to contact hours. So if you are teaching non-credit courses, you should be able to use that credit hour or that contact hour multiplier for extension courses, for non-credit, for other things. I see non-instructional counseling faculty. This is only for, they're going to count straight up hours for that, I believe, because it is not instructional time. They're just going to use a straight determination for that. However, this might be another gap where our understanding of part-time work or their understanding of part-time work is not in accordance with what actually goes on. So if you think that this is an error, please let us know. We can raise it with the Department of Education. It's not going to be something that we can fix soon. But again, pain points, anywhere where there's gaps, we've been really successful over the last few years of working with the department to address these gaps in the program to make sure that the people who need it are able to get that. Okay, I'm going to drop in the chat again the resource guide. And hopefully it comes through this time. If you do not receive it in the chat, please feel free to email debtclinic@aft.org, and I am more than happy to email you the resource guide afterwards. Can you cobble 2 courses in one school with 1 course in another? Absolutely. And lots of people are going to have to do this. So if you are teaching 2 3-credit courses at one school and 1 3-credit course at another during the same term, you can absolutely do that. What the employer is going to do is they'll use that contact hour multiplier. They will certify you as part-time for 20.1 hours for the one school, 10.05 hours for the second school. You need to make sure to submit those 2 PSLF applications together so that the Department of Education and the servicer who handles them knows that you're certifying hours for the same term and that you're combining multiple public service jobs. But again, you're able to use multiple public service, part-time public service employers to get to that full-time employment. You're just going to need a form from one or from each employer, and you're going to need to send them in together. So can I please repeat when I need to apply for PSLF? So we recommend that you certify your PSLF employment once a year. Technically, you only have to apply for PSLF after you make 120 payments while working in public service. That has not worked for people, though, historically, because people didn't know the rules and what have you. So we recommend certifying as soon as possible and then certifying every year thereafter. By doing this, you're going to be able to, first of all, see that count go up by 12 every year. And if it is not going up by 12, you know that there is an issue that you need to discuss with your employer to find out why payments haven't been counted. Maybe something is going on with how your employer is certifying it. Maybe there is something going on with the servicer, but we do not want you to lose credit for hours by putting it off. So again, you can certify immediately and then just plan on recertifying every year to make sure that your account is current with that. And then you have to certify one more time after you cross that 120 payment threshold. Again, make sure that you are working full-time in public service when you apply for public service loan forgiveness that final time so that you can receive the benefits. You need to be working in public service when you qualify. Yes, it is most advantageous to consolidate before the end of the year, December 31st. After that, the rules change. But right now, if you consolidate your loans, if you consolidate any loans, you're able to get the payment count of the oldest loan in your portfolio. So do we know when the IDR adjustment will be processed? It is an ongoing thing. It is going to be a hell of a lot easier if the Supreme Court allows that 10 to 20K and automatic cancellation to go through. That is going to eliminate roughly half of the active student loan borrower accounts. So about 20 to 23 million people will have their loans completely wiped out, making it having the amount of reviewing that needs to go. But our understanding, what the department is telling us, is that people who have been in repayment longer will see that IDR account adjustment first. So they should be seeing that by the end of the year. Folks who have been or more recently entered repayment will see those account adjustments hit their account probably in 2024. I wish that we would have them in hand before payments resume in September. I'm not going to hold my breath over that, but we could be surprised. But we're being told if you've been in repayment for a long time, that should hit faster. But if you've been in otherwise, it's going to be 2024 by seeing this. So how do you go certifying the previous hours and know where at this point in time to be able to plan or estimate where we can become eligible? So you need to fill out the PSLF application, and you're going to need to send that application to each employer you've worked at while working in public service since October 1st, 2007. Now, I know for a lot of you, that is going to be a hassle. And for some of you who have worked a term here, been off for 6 months and worked a term there, it is going to be really piecemeal and is going to be really ugly. The great thing is that there is not a deadline for submitting the PSLF application. The only deadline that you really need to worry about is the December 31st deadline for consolidation. But you can keep submitting PSLF applications retroactively after that to get your payments covered for that. So again, you're going to need to do the PSLF help tool, and you're going to need to submit it for each qualifying employer for any time that you were working in public service. Again, if you want to hit up a student debt clinic, it's go.aft.org/debt clinic webinar. We will walk you through the whole process of how to apply for PSLF. You can also go to cancelmystudentdebt.org, and they have a really great explainer to how to apply for PSLF. So if you're in a hurry to get started on that, I recommend checking out those resources. Is there any negative for the school? I see Jessica is answering for this, but the short answer is no. This does not cost your school anything except the HR person filling out a form. They shouldn't have been fighting this for so long because it is a great employee benefit. It helps retain employees. There's been a lot of reasons to do this for a long time, but there is no financial cost to the institution. It's all borne by the federal government. If you've applied for PSLF before and were denied, yes, you should absolutely reapply again. My understanding from the Department of Education is that if you applied before, you do need to reapply again with the credit hour multiplier in place. So you are going to have to do that. They're not going to go back through your old applications and automatically apply the multiplier. Also, just know that if your employer is being a jerk about this, again, let us know. We will work with the Department of Education to make sure that your employer's HR department knows what the rules are and that they need to follow them. And on top of that, if there are issues and kind of any other issues going on with this, let us know so that we can help resolve them with the department. Again, the procedure to have retroactive payments applied is simply to fill out the application for all public service employers that you've worked at full-time going back to October 1st, 2007. And again, it's going to be messy. Yes, 30 is the magic number. Before, the department had rules that were kind of loosey-goosey that said 30 or what your department considers full-time. So even in California, where they've had the multiplier in place for a while, departments or employers would check the part-time box and say that they were working 32 hours. They still wouldn't admit they were 30, that it was full-time. Right now, or on July 1st, the regulations changed to 30 hours is full-time, period. So there's no wiggle room. If you work 30 hours, you are considered full-time for the purposes of PSLF, and the employer should fill in that box. Yes, Mike, if your union negotiates a better contract or contact hour multiplier, that is still preserved. So just so you know, the states of Oregon and Colorado passed by state law a 4.35 credit hour multiplier. So even more generous. So I think that does actually get 2 credit hours over the hump for that. But it preserves your ability to create multipliers that more accurately reflect the amount of work done by contingent faculty in teaching. Again, we know that 3.35 hours is a low ball estimate. We know you work much more in that and providing an education for your students, way more. So if you can negotiate that, we recommend that you do. And there's nothing in the regulations that prevent you from doing that. I'm going to go through the last couple questions here. We are at the 12 o'clock hour, and so we are going to end this here shortly. Again, we do have debt clinics and other resources for you, and you can use that debtclinic@aft.org email for further questions. So Wendy's question said you submit a document for each past semester and then submit once a year. So to get, you just need to submit once for all of your previous employment since 2007. If that gets you to 120 payments and you're on track for loan forgiveness, congratulations. This will be hopefully the first and only time you have to do this. If you do not learn that you have 120 payments initially, you are going to be able to submit moving forward to be able to get those payments. So hopefully that's going to be one thing. I will let people know there is a glitch in the system. After you consolidate your loans, oftentimes the very first payment count you get for PSLF is 0 or very low number. Do not let that freak you out. It does freak people out, but this is common for anyone who has consolidated their loans in the last few years. You're going to receive an updated payment account a few weeks later that is going to accurately reflect your full payments. So please make sure that don't let that freak you out, or if it does, email me and I will talk you down. Yes, if you are actually filing for PSLF to receive loan forgiveness, make sure that you're working full-time when you file that. For your previous employment, go ahead and submit the paperwork now, but for that final application, Make sure you do need to be working full-time in public service when you receive loan forgivenesses. This does not include for-profit colleges, unfortunately. For-profit colleges are not working in public service. They are working in the service of shareholders. But any nonprofit institution or any public institution. So I see the other questions in here. We are at the end of our time. Again, use that debtclinic@aft.org email address. I do want to, I will answer those questions today or tomorrow to get to them. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I want to thank Jessica and Jerry for taking the time to join us today. I do encourage you to be a student debt clinic trainer. We have 6 months to let every contingent faculty member know that this program exists and they should apply so they do not lose any of the qualifying hours that they have. So do consider becoming one. Let us know by July 14th, and we'll let you know when trainings are available. So on behalf of myself, on behalf of Jessica, and on behalf of Jerry, thank you all so much for taking the time to be here today. We look forward to hearing about your debt being forgiven. Do let us know. And with that, Jessica, you want to say anything? Last words?
No, just thank you so much. And I would just want to say for everyone, for the non-instructional faculty, I did put it in there. Please contact your employer, because I know for non-instructional faculty, you're still considered faculty and your employer may have some type of multiplier based on your assignment. So just check on that. Other than that, remember, December 31st, 2023, want to get that done before then. And yes, please become a student debt clinic trainer. And that's all for me.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you again soon. This is going to be posted on aft.org in the higher education resources section. And so please let people know that they're going to be able to watch this presentation. And we'll get that posted probably after the 4th of July. So thank you for taking the time to be here.